When you step on a scale, the scale goes down and the springs inside it are pulled out, and the pointer moves to a mark. These changes are physical. When you look at the pointer to see what your weight is, rays of light come from it to your eye and go through the lens in your eye to a point on the retina. In a camera, rays of light from whatever you are photographing make an upside-down picture on the film. So it is inside your eye. The pictures made on the retina are upside down. Everything going on so far has been physical, but in your retina, more complex sorts of changes now take place. Some of these are chemical. Complex materials in the retina go through chemical changes, not very unlike those that make photographs on films. And these changes cause other much more complex sorts of changes in the living cells of the retina. These nerves, which make us able to see, are an outgrowth from the brain to the retina. From the eye, impulses travel to the brain through the living cells of the nerves. There are as many as 1,000,000 separate telephone lines in these nerves alone. A train of changes goes up these nerves to the back part of the brain. The cells there let us see the things that our eyes are looking at. No one at present has any idea of how they do this. The distance from the eye to the back of the brain is not great, but some distances from some parts of the body to the brain are long. The rate at which impulses travel through the nerves is about the same for all of them. The distance from one's toe to one's brain and back may be as much as 12 feet. When you are feeling with your toe for a step to put your weight on, the impulses have to go up your nerves from your toe to your brain and back down again to the muscles which move your foot. When you are walking, almost all the muscles in your body are at work, keeping you from falling down. Your muscles and nerves work together to keep you on your feet. These changes in the nerve and muscle cells are dependent on what is going on in other cells in the body in many different ways. Life on Earth began, it is thought, about 2 billion years ago. No one knows for certain whether there are living things on other planets. On the red planet Mars, for example, or on any of the 10 million planets like the Earth, which are now thought to be traveling round other stars which are like our Sun. It seems possible, even probable, that there are living beings on many of them. Changes of color on Mars are seen at different times of the Martian year. These changes may be caused by the growth of plants. The newest and highest development of living things on Earth is human life. About 1 million years ago, early men and women were beginning something new in the long story of the Earth. Let us change our time scale and make this line represent 500,000 years, the time since human life began. Then this curve may represent the next great steps forward into more complex ways of living. No one knows for certain when speech began. Probably speech developed slowly and in different ways and at different times with different sorts of people. But certainly it was through being able to speak to one another that we became human. With the growth of language, a great development of the parts of the brain which are used in talking took place. Speech gave us greater and greater control over the world, over others, and over ourselves. Without language, we would not have become what we mean by the word human. Let us change our time scale again and make our line represent 10,000 years. The next great upward turn of our curve came some 2,500 years ago. In many different parts of the earth, people were discovering then their first full and clear ideas of themselves and of their world. In Greece, the great poem The Iliad, and Socrates and Plato. In Palestine, Amos, Hosea, and Isaiah. You may not make for yourself an image of anything in the sky or on earth or in the waters under the earth. In India, Gautama Buddha and the Bhagavad Gita. In China, Confucius and Mencius. At first, through the spoken word and then in writing, we began to make for ourselves pictures of ourselves and of what we should become. More than some know, we have been living by these pictures ever since. If you have read this book up to this point, you can easily read for yourself The Wrath of Achilles, in simple English, The Republic of Plato, in simple English, and the books of Amos, Hosea, and Isaiah in the Bible in basic English. Here are some of the greatest sayings of all time, which, in one language or another, go on living in people's minds. For many centuries, school children in China began to learn to read with this sentence. Human nature is good. Mencius. From the Changyong, what makes us is named our nature. What directs our nature is named the way. What makes the way possible is education. From the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Yajnavalkya said, You cannot see the seer of seeing it, or hear the hearer of hearing, or think the thinker of thought, or know the knower. This is self. Your own self lives in the hearts of all. From the Apology of Socrates, I do nothing, men of Athens, but go about telling you, young and old, not to care for your bodies or your property so much as for your souls. Socrates was speaking to the Athenians who were making up their minds to put him to death. Socrates was the first man to talk of the soul in the sense in which we have used the word since then. At first, writing seems to have been chiefly a way of keeping records. The first great poems, the Iliad, for example, were in the minds and mouths of poet after poet before they were written down. The teachings of Buddha, of Mencius, Confucius, and the earlier Hebrews were given first by the spoken word and written down later by some who heard them. Socrates, though he used books, thought that teaching should be by word of mouth and by example. And Jesus taught only by what he said and did and was. Later, the written word was to become the chief instrument through which we could try to understand ourselves and our world.